Hello, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Today, we're talking about Satan's favorites and how they're used to distract from the truth. Satan's favorites can be the mother, father, sister, brother, cousin, auntie, uncle, grandmother, grandfather, the pimp, the player, the hustler, the gambler that I often reference on this channel. And thank you so much for stopping by today. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment, and share. We are going to go down a rabbit hole of sorts. Except we're coming out of this rabbit hole clean, white as snow. We're not getting muddied up. What we know is that Satan typically uses the dark side of things to get people to conform. But there is also the side of light that Satan will use to get people to conform. And if you are the rebellious one that wants to dig deep to find the truth, that you don't go along with the programming, the script to believe the lie, well, like a hunter chasing after a rabbit, Satan is going to run after you. Sometimes it might be through negative comments. It might be the lies that one tells. There may be those who were going to give you something, but now that you've exposed the family, whether biological or some other family, we don't want you around. You might be the one that we thought that you weren't so by the book. We didn't pay you to be by the book. So there are ways that Satan wants you to fall in line, to be obedient, to do what you're told. You learn that ever since you were a little baby. And sometimes dangling the stick and the carrot doesn't work. And so instead, there is distraction. Stay with me. Stay with me. Distraction shows up in the form of a Beyonce. Distraction shows up in the form of a minister such as T.D. Jakes, who was leaned over and he was, at least appeared to be, ill. Distraction shows up when you're paying attention to what's going on over in that small country somewhere in another part of our world, and you're not the least bit concerned about the law that was passed overnight. The distraction, the manipulation, it comes in the form of beautiful people, places, and things sometimes. We sleep on that. It comes in the form of fun and excitement, the promise to obtain fame and wealth. It comes in ways that you least expect, but it's there though. And it can't be denied, especially when you spend some time with the one true God and He exposes the lies. But some individuals, you're in the rabbit hole and you're going to stay in the rabbit hole because you don't want to come out of it. It's fun down there. I think I see a carrot. I think I see a place where I can lay my head. I got a good enough view looking up from the hole to see all the fun, all the good, the nice things. You don't want to know how you got down the hole? No. You don't want to know about the problem staying in that hole? No. You don't want to know about that false light that you're looking up at? No. Leave me alone. So, if that's the type of personality one has, he or she or they should not be listening to this message. Because this message is for the one who wants to see the truth. This message is for the one who I've been struggling with this lie that the family has told for so long, and I really want to know, how do I go about getting the truth? I'm tired of working for an establishment that keeps pulling the wool over my eyes and my coworkers. So what do I do in order to see the truth for what it is? Well, thank you so much for sticking around. First of all, we've got to move away the distraction. It's just like a person who organizes for a living, a home. What they do is they will clear out a room after, of course, they've studied what your needs are. They'll clear out the room. We're starting from scratch. Sometimes it takes clearing out the desk of someone. Sometimes it takes giving someone a divorce. Sometimes it takes the negative to show up to cancel out the positive that was built on manipulation, deceptive practices, but trying to get people to see that that is false. It isn't healthy for you. It isn't good for you. It's just a smokescreen. That is the challenge. That is the challenge. Sometimes you have to repeat things over and over and over again, even though you don't like to do that. But sometimes they didn't get the message the first time, right? Like, for instance, the audio. Some people don't get the audios. It doesn't register. It doesn't sink in. Or maybe they're so offended by too many you statements that they just click off. What have you? But our God has a way of relaying that same message through a video. This time, looks like she's going to receive it. Well, hallelujah. As long as she gets out of that rabbit hole, as long as she sees the truth for what it really is and gets past the false light, I'm all right with it. Bye, subscriber. You see, the manipulation that's put before us right now to cover up the fact that these people, some of them, participated in behaviors with children, stood by, watched, supported, laughed it off, walked away, pretended as if they didn't see what they saw, or yelled about it, but didn't report it. Now, the smoke screen, the cover up, the positivity is, I gave money to this organization. I invested in this group. I built a partnership with this business. See, they're protecting their brand. I performed at this bowl and that one. I created this training program. We started up this new podcast. You see where I'm going with this? It's damage control. It's damage control. It's reputation management. The victims' voices get very loud about any number of things. Many of you all, you miss out on class action lawsuits that have been put together because of what your favorite companies have done with regard to cars, with regard to food, pharmaceutical drugs, and many other things. You miss out on them. They're not going to advertise that. You got to look for it. Sometimes you don't get anything in the mail. Email, snail mail, nothing. And they're hoping that you don't look for it. They're hoping that even if you dig for it, that you don't come out with a plan to go after them. So here comes fun and positive types of conversation and partnerships. Hey, we're diverse over here. You know, we definitely are in support of DEI and A. Meanwhile, do some research, you find out that a lot of the customers have left that particular business, or they had to pay out a lot of money for wrongdoing. Oh, I'm giving some people some inspiration. I'm giving you something to think about. Something happens that causes all sorts of harm to people, and that business says, wait a minute, we need to do something about it. The public relations team comes in and says, hey, you know what? The holidays are coming. Participate in this toy drive, clothing drive. Give back to the community. Let's do something so big that they won't even think twice about said events. And even if there are those who protest or speak out loud, we're doing so much good that the rest of them that have benefited from us and our products and services, they won't even think twice. They won't even look the other way. They'll stick it out with us. You see how this goes? The manipulation is there. If you can see it with your family members, then you need to see it when it comes to your big brand businesses, your favorite celebrities, and their damage control that they do. And you know what happens once everybody has been fed, once everybody feels good about everything that's happening? The victim's voice is silenced. It's suffocated. He, she, or they paid off. The key here is that you've got to keep putting the bad out there, the negative out there, until justice, that's the ultimate goal, until justice is served. The truth brings about justice. Somebody has to do the time for that. Someone has to be the one that says, I'm guilty. Now you got mothers, sisters, brothers, fathers, cousins, whoever, that will protect the narcissist. The whole plan was that the narcissist never loved you. Ooh, I'm speaking to someone, because you've listened to my narcissist audios for many, many years now. The narcissist never loved you. The narcissist never was down for the cause. The narcissist wants for you to be supportive of them before the axe drops, before you find out more information. I have trouble with some individuals' beliefs, like they have with mine, I have with theirs, when it comes to, you say that we should protect the children, right? You say that it's wrong that a man would be involved with a child. So go back into family history and you'll find that there were many men that were involved with children. And people will excuse, well, that was back in the day. That was still a child. Now, some people have problems with people dressed a certain way, come into their household, sensual. They don't like that sort of thing. They don't like the booty cheeks hanging out. They don't like the tight shirts, young or old. They don't like all of that. They don't like somebody flirting with their husband. They don't like somebody flirting with their wife. They don't like the wife staring too long at the men and complimenting how buff they are. They don't like how the husband is talking about, wow, whew, she's taking me back to the good old days. You, on the other hand, looking all, no, you didn't. Don't you talk about me. Okay? You don't like all of that, right? But yet, you will allow your eyes to be distracted by false light, sensuality, immoral activities, things that just aren't right. Come on now. We have fallen at times into this hypocrisy. We don't like these things, but yet we'll be manipulated into them very easily. And then once we realize, oh my goodness, what did I just see? What did I just allow? Wait a minute. The same type of strictness that you have about certain people, places, and things, why don't you have that when it comes to celebrities? Why don't you have that when it comes to that place that you get a paycheck? But you see, it's all fun and it's wonderful and it's good until it isn't. Until the dramas and traumas show up at your doorstep. It's okay for that celebrity to have her daughter out there right alongside of her and she's got what going on in terms of her wardrobe. It's okay to ride on a horse. And some of you all know meanings behind that sort of thing. The symbolic part of it. We know about the pale white horse sickness. White isn't always innocent, beautiful. False light. False light. The manipulation is there. The sickness is there. The sadness is there. The fact that a wife has learned what she has learned about her husband. And the manipulation comes along. Many a wife falls into this sort of manipulation all the time. When she finds out something wrong, very wrong about her husband, and that husband begs, pleads or cries about it, or doesn't do any of that, just simply fights viciously about how he didn't and he would never and all that other stuff. There is that part to a wife that will go ahead on and support even though it's wrong. We saw that with Hillary a long time ago. We're seeing that now with Beyonce and her behalf. When do you get to a place where you see the truth? When do you get to a place where you believe in the truth? When do you get to a place where you walk in the truth? Whatever that might be. Let me help you see where you have been lied to. A family member keeps telling you the same old story year after year after year, but then you go on Ancestry and you see that that story is not correct. A family member keeps telling you some things that rub you the wrong way and don't align with Scripture, even though they go to the church. It's safe to say somebody is lying. You notice that the in-law doesn't talk to you. The in-law is keeping quiet about a lot of things. Even though your mind tells you that typically this person would behave this way or act that way, but yet they don't. And you never think to yourself, what could be going on? The reason why. And rather than be angry because someone isn't running to you with the truth, you should be angry at the person who's telling you to lie. Doesn't matter if it's your brother, if it's your sister, your mother, your cousin, your aunt, your grandmother, your grandfather, or whoever else. The point is that that's where the anger should be. But the pimp keeps pimping. I don't care what they say. You get out there and you make that bread. That's what you do. And then the pimp goes and says, see what I did for all of you all? She didn't want to come out here. But you got entertained off of her shaking her behind, didn't you? You got entertained seeing the mother-daughter duo, didn't you? You owe me. Just giving an example. We don't really know all of what is going on behind the scenes, now do we? But sometimes, Satan has a way of creating this atmosphere where everybody feels good. You got a taste of that when you heard about all the party stories with regard to Diddy. And some of you all, you already knew about parties like this because some of your family members or family friends did this sort of thing long before some Diddy. But what you never thought was what goes around comes back around. What you never thought was something that you participated in 10, 15, 20, 30 plus some years ago would show back up and haunt you. You see, maybe it's not about a party. Maybe it's about a workplace. Maybe it's not about a workplace. Maybe it's about what happened at the family reunion or the last holiday event. Maybe it's about where that man drives his car when nobody is in the car. Or what that wife does with the children when the husband's not at home. Or what happens at that so-called front store, bakery, convenience store, local furniture shop, when really behind the scenes, it's not any of that. When you have your spidey senses, if you will, tingling, telling you that there's more to see here than meets the eye, there usually is. There usually is. God will put some things in front of us and use us to communicate a truth. We will give you what's in your face, typically, like with Harmless 1, Harmless 2, Harmless 3. I gave you an overview in your face, looking at those short fictional films here on the channel, based on true events, some of them. And were some of the scenes anyway. And so you get that blatant message that's right in front of you. But then sometimes us creators, we look back and we go, oh, there's more to see, isn't there? God doesn't always tell you everything that he's using you to do, or why you're doing it, or why it was this image and not that one, or why this one is here, but it really doesn't seem like it aligns or connects. And then later on, the prophetic is evident. When you look at a date, something's been posted, and then you see the events that happen afterward. The victims had the conversations and told people, whether it was through their blogs, through the videos, some of your family members, during the family reunion, over the phone, you thought they were calling for one thing, and then the next thing you know, the conversation turns into something else. And then when you don't hear that truth, and you don't receive that truth, it grows. Now, instead of just having that conversation with you, the conversation is with others. When you don't understand what the truth might be. Maybe you're the one who has to deliver a truth about something that's happened a long time ago or recently. God will raise someone up to help you understand so that you can communicate effectively. The truth isn't to be taken lightly, no matter what that truth is. I gave you some examples by mentioning celebrities, but I don't want you to stay in that headspace. I want you to be able to look at what you're processing, what you are noticing, not just within your household, but someone else's household, out in the community, at the workplace, because God says that there is a truth that He has been showing you, listener. And you are fighting it, or you're making excuses for it, or you're so distracted by all the fluff and the puff that even when a little bit of the truth shows up, you miss it. This is why we say time and time again, any spiritual teacher, faith-based teacher, anyone who knows something about truth will tell you to be quiet, to sit still, to draw near to the Lord, to stop being distracted by your phone, by all these screens. Stop being distracted by the one with the slick speech who's talking about, I would never, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know where you're getting this. And God says, didn't I just give you a dream? Didn't I just tell you what you need to look for? Who you need to speak to? Didn't I just show you through a movie? Because movies, there's what you call the revelation method. And the truth comes forward soon after a movie is released. And that's what makes some of these rabbits start scurrying too. And they start coming up with a whole lot of content to drown out certain movies. When we are walking with the one true God, He has an interesting way of putting the pieces of the puzzle together again for those of you all who have questioned some things with regard to a missing piece. If you envision for a moment a chessboard, you know that there are pieces on a chessboard. If you don't particularly care for a chessboard, then okay, you can use a checkerboard. But just envision this. There are pieces that are placed on a chessboard, on a checkerboard. You can't play the game without the pieces, correct? And it can be difficult if you try to play without certain pieces. So sometimes you are given a glimpse as to what the truth is and how the game is being played and who are the pieces that are being used to play the game. But it's up to you to know the truth, to know the instruction, to be willing to play your hand, your part, to move the piece. Except the difference between the world and this God that we serve, He tells us, not man, not woman, He tells us when to move the pieces on the chessboard, the checkerboard, when to deliver certain pieces of information. You know, information can be like like the game pieces. Some information is stronger than other information. And sometimes there's that low-level information, like the pawns, that's put out there. Lots of social media is like this, right? Just a bunch of junk thrown here, there, and everywhere. And a lot of that is just stuffed and stuffed and stuffed into the cloud out there in mainstream media. But the more important pieces of information is being protected by all of the junk that's put out there. As we move into a new year, depending on the time that you're listening to this audio message, you're going to have to sift through all of the junk, sift through all of the pawns to get to the key players so that you can be able to take the king, the queen, or in a game of checkers, to take someone's king. I know that at some point this is going to get ugly. That, I feel like something bad is going to happen, that people have talked about time and time again, and I've even mentioned on various audio. It is going to get ugly because you've got people who were once children who are now adults, and they know how to play the game too. And they're using all of their tools and resources in order to get people brought to justice. And this is why you get some of these individuals who want to regulate some things, because they don't want these systems to be able to pull all of the necessary information or be able to identify the patterns at which the violators have traveled to certain locations, connected with certain people. And these sorts of systems can be able to pick up on patterns. They're very good at that. They can pick up on resources and how resources are used as you study more with the analytics of data. The outliers show up as well. And a lot of this is tied to finances because, it takes money to make money, right? It takes products and services to meet the needs of the locals as well as the not so local. But people over in other countries who order up people like you order up a burger at a restaurant. I would like lettuce, tomato. Please hold the cheese. You see? And when you don't have that mindset to even think about these sorts of things, a truck or a van can go right by you and you wouldn't think twice about that child with the tears whose face is pressed up against the window. You don't think twice about the yelling and the screaming in the local neighborhood. I mean, really, those kids are that rowdy that every time you turn around, there's somebody screaming bloody murder. What could be going on in that house? Or you're at the hotel and you find it quite odd that there's all these children that are in the hotel in the middle of the day when most children go to school. But it's all smoothed over, right? If they're clean and they look pretty and they're saying yes ma'am and no sir, and it's all smoothed over by the positivity. They're over at the museum. It must be a teacher. That is walking with them. Must be some school. The manipulation, going back to the family. He brought all those gifts over to the household. And nobody thinks that, what did he do? All before he was crying broke, what did he do? But then there are those who don't ask, girl, just hold on to it until there's a knock at the door. And the person who took all those items ends up coming out that house in handcuffs. And you got to give that stuff back. Manipulation, once again, comes in many forms. And our God doesn't want us to sleep on these things. We are never to ever love anyone or anything so much that we don't see the reason why they do what they do, why they go after the particular positions that they go for, why they buy up what they buy, why they shake hands with who they shake hands with. We have been told time and time again to follow the money trail. This God that we serve, he does not want us supporting sin behaviors. And it doesn't matter the color, the name, what somebody has done. When you support sinners on their sin, you are just as guilty. This is why you get some people saying, why would you defend this person? Why would you support this person? Why would you go over to that person's house knowing what you know and then faking ignorance? What do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about. I left before all of that. And we know better. Curious George wanted to see. He wanted to stay late. He got to see, and now he can't unsee. And he's hoping and praying that some folks don't ever find out that he was at the party. So he's got to protect himself somehow, some way. So he's going to enter into the Christian fold. He's going to say, well, no better time than this time. And when one does it, many more do it. Celebrity makes its way through the church. It's okay to receive our personal Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. But you can do that privately. You can mind your own business like you've been doing for 10, 15, 20, 30 some years, right? But you have to also look at the timing at which manipulation takes place. And those who question, why now? You deserve a gold star. Why do manipulators do what they do at the time at which they do it? Because when the hunter is at their heels, they've got to do something. They've got to do something. When we're on to the foolishness, when we know that somebody got something to hide, but they don't want to hear from us. And the cults, the haves, the groups, the associations, the affiliations, and whatever else rise up and say, how dare you? And I say, why can't you just keep your emotions out of all of this and just look at the truth for what it is? The truth is that we've got people who don't receive Jesus. Listen to how they talk. Listen to how they converse about Jesus. You know who's real and who's not. But because someone made you feel good one day, now you want to bring them into the fold and say that they're a believer. I remember one particular individual spoke to me not that long ago, and he made the statement that this woman was a believer. And I said, well, what makes you think she is a believer? And then he went on to give me some information. And I will say to myself, that looks like any worldly person. That conversation looks like any worldly conversation, sounds like any worldly conversation. Well, I believe that there's a creator. Okay. But is she walking? Is she walking with who she believes in? Is there evidence and proof? What's those fruits look like? And that person couldn't tell me any specifics. But the illusion, the smooth talk, the fun times, right? The laughter. No, it takes more than just someone saying that they're a believer. When people turn down money, when they look the other way, when they're officially over and done with, okay. But many of people will go into this faith-based programming, if you will, for a time, just to lay low. Then they'll come out and they're back to doing whatever they've always done. And then the manipulator says, oh, please forgive me. This was a lot of money, right? I had to do what I had to do. We know you church folk, you're going to forgive us. You always do. And God says, I am not like what you think. See, we thought based on what we were fed at churches. And we got a watered down gospel. What I have seen from personal experience as well as other people's experience is that this God we serve, at least the one that I've been serving for quite some time, he's in the Old Testament. And when you read what he did when there were those who were disobedient, he is nothing to be played with. He is nothing to be played with. And so, if you want to esteem these people who talk out of two sides of their mouth, or up to a certain extent, yes, we say, okay, welcome. We hope you're going to do something. But then we start doing a little digging and we see the truth for what it is. And we keep esteeming them, putting them up on some kind of pedestal. We serve a jealous God, right? I don't need to get into the details because unfortunately some of my loved ones are not above ground because they like to play on two sides of the fence. And they were trying to recruit us to be like them. And God had had enough. There was more than just what the coroner's report showed. And some of you all, you might not even have a clue as to what I'm talking about because you haven't connected the dots yet. But once you start connecting the dots, when God's truth shows up, we are to respect it. We are to validate the victims when the evidence and proof is there. We are not to cherry pick what we believe or don't believe. And we know that a person has a long history of showing that they are not about God's business, or that they just suddenly decided to be a part of God's business during a strange time when people are dropping names and accusing folks of things. We've got to be smart about these things. Now, I hope that this thought-provoking, inspirational message will cause some people to do what it takes to validate victims, to separate the truth from the lie, to be responsible with the truth that you receive, to help those in need, to come out of this thing. Because it will be rough, it will be challenging, but to come out of this challenge, this battle, this thing, stronger, because you stood your ground. I thank you as always for taking time out to listen. You've been listening to YouTube, NM Enterprise 7. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment, and yes, we do welcome giving on this channel. Thank you to those who have given. The links are in the description box. Blessings to you.